MacGybo.
Hi, I'm MacGybo. Welcome to the fourth in my series of Kill All. I've done Kill All Shuttles, Kill All Autopilots, Kill All Explorers, and this one is Kill All Pods. Now, pods are the player inside the ship. So if your ship blows up, you don't just die, you become in a capsule, in a pod, which is something that you can fly and it can get you to another station, but it can also be blown up just like a ship. And if that happens, you do die, and then you reappear wherever your home station is in a new clone. Now, you'll know from my previous videos that when you aggress another ship in high sec, you lose part of your security status, which is about minus 0.2. If you get down as low as minus 2, you can start having some problems flying around high security space. If you shoot a pod in high sec, the security status hit is a lot higher. So for that reason, this video I'm not going to use MacGybo because I use MacGybo in high sec quite a lot. I'm going to use 3 alts, and by the end of this we're going to take a look at the security status and see exactly how much damage is being done. I'm starting off with a character called Jinx Atkins, and Jinx's security status at the outset is minus 0.4. So it's not perfect, but they can go anywhere in high sec. I've chosen to do this in perimeter above the Jita gate. Now, believe it or not, even though pods are so fragile and can easily be killed, people still autopilot in pods. People still jump through gates and just sit there in their pods, and they're going to be the pods that I'm going to be targeting today. I'm outside player structure, which is the closest one to the Jita gate and perimeter, and I'm going to talk about a couple of game dynamics that might surprise you. So the first thing I'm going to do is just go to the Jita gate here and just look at it. Now, because this is a player structure and it's open to the public, you see this little symbol here. That means I'm tethered, and that means that I am protected. I can't be attacked unless I'm suspect. I will also be repaired if I'm damaged. If I am criminal, I can still be shot at and killed by Concord if I'm in a ship. If I have a security status of even like minus 10 and I am in high security space, if I'm flying around I'll get killed by Concord. But if I am tethered by a player owned structure like this, Concord will not kill me. That might not be something that you would assume or know, but it happens to be true, and it's perfect for when I want to do something like this. So to look at the gate, I just do Stargate, Jita, look at. Now, if I click on the gate, you can see that I am 1,438 kilometers away from it, and I have pods on my overview. Now that's close enough that if a pod turns up there, I'll be able to see it on my overview. I have my bookmarks set. All I need to do is wait for a pod, and when it shows up, I'm going to warp down to my bookmark here, or on the gate if it's closer, and shoot the pod. And we'll see if a pod's empty, it's only worth about 30,000 ISK. Doesn't really count as a great kill. But if you get pods with implants, then the value of these pods can go up to the billions. So I'm going to see if I can shoot about 10-12 pods today, and we'll see if there's any surprises. There are plenty of characters who do pod shooting as their skill, as their art, and they've got literally tens of thousands of these kills, and you'll see them zipping through high security space in their cheap thrashers, flashing red. They're permanently minus 10, and now here's a pod here, and you'll see it's just jumped through, and it comes up as a capsule rather than a pod. Now if anybody jumps through in a small ship and is just sitting there, or if anyone autopilots in a small ship, I've got 3 characters here, so what I could easily do is just warp down 2 of the characters, shoot the ship with one and shoot the pod with the other. Because people might think if they've got a good pod and it's in a ship, they're a wee bit safer. You're really not. That's one of the things that you can learn very quickly about this game, is that high security space isn't that safe. Now here is a pod, and I know from where it's landed there that it is autopiloting. So I'm going to warp down to it, and then I'll show you something, okay? So he's travelling at 187 meters per second. So if I just shoot him, Now here's something about pods. I already know that that pod was empty. Okay? If you kill a pod, and I'm just going to walk down and get the loot out of my wreck. If you shoot a pod and there's implants in it, then you get the kill notification immediately. You get the ding straight away. If it's an empty pod, then nothing happens. It takes a little minute for it to come through and then it'll tell you that it's empty. Now, one thing that you should do if you're podding like this, which I haven't done, is to make sure that your home station is the one that you've got all your ships in. And if I show you here, here's the pod and it's empty. I mentioned 187 meters per second. That's the speed that the pod was going at. If you have implants in your pod and those implants are in any way beneficial to the speed of the ship that you fly, that also applies to your pod. So if I'm looking at a pod and I see that it's going faster than 187 meters per second, then I know that that's got implants in it. I think the base speed of an untrained pod is around 172 meters per second. So Jinx Atkins started off with a security status of minus 0.4. If that was a ship that I digressed, my security status would have gone down to about minus 0.6. But because it was a pod, the security status has gone down to minus 2.7, which is a substantial increase or decrease in security status. Even though it's a much higher security status penalty, the amount of time that you've got to sit out for your criminal timer is still 15 minutes. So a couple of other things about killing a pod or a capsule is you can see it here. It leaves behind a corpse in space which you can scoop to your cargo hold, and people buy them, usually worth about $1 million each, but if it's a particularly well-known pilot it might be worth more. Something else to be aware of: if you undock from a player-owned structure like this Tatara, and you do have the tethering, if you didn't do anything, just undock, then eventually you will go out with the tether bubble, because you undock at top speed, and then you would be free for anyone, including Concord, to attack you. So what I've done here is I've set a bookmark, which I've called my pod spot. I'm just going to approach it, and that way I know I'm in a spot where I can easily walk down to the gate, but also I'm safe in the tethering area. You can get bumped out of this though, so be aware of that. So I'm now in position and looking down at the gate. Now occasionally EVE Online has this event, and I think when I say occasionally it's like once a year, and it's only for maybe a couple of days or a week. They have an event whereby if you were to shoot a pod, then you could get a cargo container and some of the implants that were in that pod could drop. Now, to me that should be a permanent feature, not just something that happens every now and then. But it doesn't show up in the corpse, it shows up as a separate cargo container. And again, it shows up as a yellow cargo container, which means that if you were to take that, then the character that's looting that container would turn suspect. The thing about pods when they jump through a gate is that they're just as quick as shuttles at being able to align and then warp. There's no chance of catching a pod as it jumps through a gate. Warping a pod should be something that you should always be preparing to do if you realise in a fight that your ship's about to blow up. You should just be finding a celestial like a station or a planet or a gate, and just as your ship's about to explode, if you spam the warp 2 button, that'll get your pod out of there. The amount of times that I see war deckers, for example, like Black Flag, killing a ship and then getting the pod straight afterwards is ridiculous. Now here's one here. This is Robert Fargo. Let's just see what speed he's doing. We'll warp down and kill him anyway. But his speed there is 180, which is quite slow. It's not the slowest. 172 beneath is the slowest. So I would say it's likely to be empty. Let's just shoot him. There's the other one. So let's just shoot him. Even though my ship blew up before the pod, the kill report for the ship came through first. And that way I know that immediately that pod is empty. So I'm just going to take my third ship up to the pod spot, and this time I'm going to pay more attention to the velocity of the pod, and we're going to see if we can kill one that's got some implants on board. Now, ships that are autopiloting from another gate will arrive around here, and ships that are autopiloting down from the Tranquility Trading Tower in perimeter will be landing on this side. These blue ships here are either Concord or the faction police, which sit around gates. So the kill report has come through on that second pod, and indeed it was empty. Now what will happen to those pilots that I've just shot is that they will be transported back to their home station and will just be sitting there in a pod. Now, given that these are all pilots that are autopiloting, the chances are that those pilots have been away from their keyboards, the players, and they expect to return to their keyboards and find their pilots in Jita. And they won't be, they'll be back where they started from, they'll be back in their home station. So another reason not to autopilot, and especially in a pod. It used to be the case a long time ago that you had to pay for a pod and upgrade your pod so it would hold a certain amount of skill points. And if you didn't have that pod upgraded and then you got podded, you could lose some of the skill points that you had. So the pod upgrade that you had only guaranteed that you would keep a certain amount of skill points. But thankfully that's something that's been scrapped. Now I'm in 1.0 space, which is the most secure space that you can get. But it's already somewhere that my first two pilots here are going to find difficult to fly, because as soon as you go below minus 2.0, you can't fly openly in that space without Concord trying to kill you. Also, whenever you undock, which I'll do with Jinx, because Jinx's criminal time is done, but watch what happens when he undocks. You've entered Caldari space, Jinx Atkins, and you get a warning because you're recognised as being a criminal. So I'm just going to the pod spot. Now I've got two ships back out then. So the pod speed that I'm talking about is just as it's trundling along if it's autopiloting. If it's warping, then obviously the speed will be a lot higher. This is just base speed for moving from one point to another, not in warp. Another way of quickly finding out what you think someone's pod might have in it, implants wise, is to take a little look at them. So this one here is just undocked. Now, normally when I see that they're part of one of the CCP corps, I think that's somebody's alt, that isn't a main character. But this one's been around for quite a while. That ship has just warped off without his drones. That's a class act, well done. And here's an autopiloting pod. 2.3 security status means to me he's active. He isn't just an alt. Sajmon PL. Doing 187, so it does have some skills. So we'll kill them and see what happens. Pod's empty. And Jinx's security status is now down to minus 4.6. There's a timer up here, which is a weapons timer, because I aggressed somebody. Even if it's friendly aggression or you try to shoot somebody who's criminal or suspect themselves, you can't dock until this timer is complete. So once that's done, I can just dock up there. So that's 3 pilots that we've sent back to their home station. And we're starting to litter the place with wrecks and corpses. I do like to think about these pilots returning to their keyboard and wondering why they're not in Jita station. So the next pod that we'll shoot, we'll see if we can get them doing a different speed to either 172 or 187 meters per second. And we'll see if they've got implants. Now, ordinarily when I'm ganking, I'm out in space, I'm sitting on a gate or a station. And because of that, I need to keep my security status above minus 2.0 to avoid unwanted attention from Concord. You can see from the fact that I can sit tethered at a station that my security status could be minus 10.0 and I could still be out in space looking down at a gate. And that's where a lot of gankers can get away with being very active and never repairing their security status. Now here's a pod here. Now it's 1 day old, and because it's 1 day old and low skills, it's travelling at 172. This one is travelling at 193. You see the difference there? So if I just click on that, that one that was going 193 is wingspan delivery, and it's a bit older, so anything that's travelling over 187 has definitely got implants in the pod. I think the exception might be if it's got high skills and has taken a booster, but there's a very good chance if it's going at over 187 that it's going to have implants in it. 172 with a 1 day old pod, I would say it's very unlikely that there would be any implants in that. Now if you've got any ideas for what you'd like to see in this Kill All series, please post it in the comments, let me know, and it might just end up being the next video that I'm doing. So I've now got all 3 of my pilots out. I'm just going to make sure that all 3 are looking at the Stargate. Oh, and there's a pod there. And he's going at 180. So we'll just leave him, that's a bit low. I mean, these fits that I'm flying here, they cost about $1 million-isk each, fully fit. And the damage that they can cause, the havoc that they can cause, is incredible. So it's a good way to have a lot of fun. The downside is the security status gets wrecked, and the price of security tags at the moment is through the roof. Whereas normally they're about 19 or 20 million for one of the higher security status tags. Now they're up about 33 million each. This character's more interesting. H-Rid Bala. Right, let's see if I can shoot his Corvette. And then shoot his pod. And then get the 3rd character back up. And there. 160 mil. He had 2 implants. And the reason that I thought he would have the implants is because I looked at his employment history. He's been with this corp for 2 years, 7 months. He's an older pilot. That looks more like a main than an alt. It looked like he could have implants in it, and he did. 2 improved. So it says it's 160 mil. I'll just take a look. Well, it's 114 mil for that one, and 117, so 231 million in implants that he's just lost there. I don't get them. They can't be looted unless there's a special event on, but that is a fairly decent pod kill. That's been shot 4 pods so far. I edit this video in a way where it makes it look like things are constantly happening, but in reality there's probably about 20 minutes between each kill where I'm just staring in the middle distance thinking about life choices. But I think that's part and parcel of being an Eve player. Oh, and here we got a pod here, and it's going at 187. Oh, and do you know what? I'm just going to stop that because someone else is already warping down to it. And you can see the pod disappeared. So if we look at it, yep, there's a fresh pod, this character. So I'll just find out. See, someone else is doing this. So someone's collected those corpses. Here's another one. And as I warp down, he's 177 meters a second. So I'd imagine he's going to be empty. But let's just pod him anyway. Yep, nothing in it. 177 is a bit of an unusual speed. You expect 172, but I would imagine that he's got a drug active in there. So yeah, he would have taken a +2 overclocked booster to raise up his speed. So it was probably something that he got free with the log on, and he's collected it and then autopiloted in his pod, which is why he's up to 177. Because 177 is not a speed you would expect to see in an untainted pod. So this is the fit of my ship. 7 T1 guns, a couple of sensor boosters, scan resolution, a tracking computer, 2 T1 gyro stabilizers, and a T1 rig, just to increase the damage output there. You just make sure everything's active. The ship is completely disposable, and just look at the gate. That's me ready to go. I mentioned that Henrik was podding as well, and he's just got one with a couple of little implants in it there. Well done. If I look at a pod's base warp speed, it's 3 AU a second, and if I look at a Thrash's base warp speed, it's 4.5 AU. So in theory, these pods are going to 4-4 station in Jita. As I see one come to the gate, I should be able to warp down to the gate, jump through, and then warp to the station and potentially shoot these pods as they land at the station. Let me give it a shot. The risk is that I'm going to be in high security space as a criminal with criminal security status for quite a long warp to get to the station. It's about 40 AU, so Concorde might get me before then, but we'll try it, we'll see. So here's a pod here, so let's just jump through. The pod's name is Get Any Worse. Let's see if we can do this. So I'm jumped through, and what I'm going to do is just warp, not directly to the station, but 10 kilometers off the docking point, because that's my optimal. So we're in warp now, and let's see if we can get to that pod and shoot him before he docks. There he is. Get any worse? Nope, he's landed inside the docking point. So all I can really try to do is get back to perimeter and through the gate before Concorde get me. Yeah, it looks like I've managed it. I'm still protected by the cloak as I jump through the gate. And there's another pod there, but I'm too far away from it. So I'll just walk back up to the pod spot. But we'll watch this. We'll watch this guy's pod. And he got destroyed by Shilliam Watner. But it does mean we've got an option of following these pods to the station to see if we can get them there. So it's a Saturday 1500 Eve time, so it should be getting a bit busier now. I'm hoping to get a couple more pod kills. So that pod is Mammoth Gurla. And he's got a mixture of nub corp and player corp. So we'll see if we can pod him. So just walk to my kill point, switch on my mods, and see if we can get him. Now he's safe, but this guy isn't. Let's see if we can kill Maximilian instead. Yep, managed to get him. And I think he was empty. I'm going to jump down. Oh, yes. And see if I can follow that pod that was there. Oh, was that one? That pod's just sitting there. And now he's gone. Oh, that's what we like to see. So yeah, he had 5 implants. We'll call that a result. I mean, the in-game valuation system for kill mails is notoriously bad. So that says 128 mil. In reality, it's about 164 mil, but it's not a bad pod. So you can see that this is like shooting a fish in a barrel. It is quite fun, and if kill mails are, I mean, they're utterly meaningless, but it is nice to get one that's got implants in it rather than empty. So I've got 3 thrashers left. I'm going to see if I can get 3 pods and then I'll call it a day. Now here's one. He's autopiloting, so I'm just going to go down and get him. Tetsuo Endashi, Minds of Murderers. Very unpleasant. And let's just give him a taste of some ammo. Let's have a look. Nope, he was empty as well. Disappointing. But it'll give me an opportunity to show you something. Even with the tethering, I mentioned that Concord can still kill you, so we'll just put that to the test. So if I board a Corvette, I still have my criminal timer. I've just killed that pod. So I get the warning that I'm a criminal when I try to undock in a ship, and we'll watch what happens. This is still within the tethering area. So you can see Concord spawning there, and I will just move, and you will see they killed me. It was that quick, it never even saw the damage on the ship. So there's no safety in tethering if you've got your criminal timer. 2 thrashers left, 2 pods, and there's the proof that that pod was empty. Right, I see 2 pods, 3 pods warping to the gate now. So I'm going to jump through and warp to the station, and just hopefully one of the 3 pods, when they land at the G244 station, will be outside the docking point. So I should be able to kill one of them at least. Well, at most as well. Yeah, this fella. And his pod was empty. After all that, his pod was empty. So this is my last thrasher for my pod extermination service. Taking a massive security status hit in the name of your entertainment. So Van der Valt's security status has gone down to -6.6. Jinx Atkins is now down at -7. And Red Tie is down at 4.8 with 1 more kill to come. You can see the damage that killing pods does in high security space to your security status. It's quite severe. This pod is autopiloting from the Tranquility Trading Tower, which is just laziness. He's autopiloting to go 1 jump. So it's quite right that we should finish off by podding him. Oh. Pod with 4 nice little implants for us. That was me killing all the pods. Thanks very much for watching. If you've got any recommendations for what I should be killing next, please post them in the comments below. Subscribe, like, and I'll see you again next time.